Dear Venerable Sisters and Brothers, Dhamma friends, the phrase that just recited is fairly famous among the meditators because this is the celebrated part in the Satipatthana Sutta, Anapanasati Sutta, Kayagata Sati Sutta, and here in this Girimananda Sutta, this is the way the Buddha, whenever he is introducing Anapanasati Bhavana or mindfulness on inside, in-breath and out-breath, this is a stock phrase. Always he present in the same way. Under the Girimananda Sutta, under the context of Girimananda Sutta, this macroclimate and the surrounding and focused attention on the in-breath and out-breath have brought two aspects. One thing is, if someone wish to bring the attention to the in-breath and out-breath, he must be familiar with the early 9 perceptions. Otherwise, instead of focusing on the attention on the in-breath and out-breath, mind is often bewildered, often amused, often wandering, daydreaming, fantasizing. So therefore, if someone do not know, not introduced about this 9 perception, hardly such a person can bring the attention to the in-breath and out-breath. So therefore, early 9 perceptions are to make the physical and mental condition for someone to come up to the anapanasati or mindfulness on the in-breath and out-breath. And when and where someone is taken this in-breath and out-breath as the primary object or main object and give full-time meditation for the advancement of mindfulness without much of distraction, early these 9 perceptions are very, very important. So these are the two sides under the Girimananda Sutta. Otherwise, when and where trouble happen, or even without the trouble, when where someone is thinking about the well-being or prevention, they have so much of reason not to meditate, not to be mindful on the in-breath and out-breath, so much of excuses. When and where you have an excuse, you can now analytically put into one of the above 9 perceptions. And of course, 9 perception Buddha presented in the healthy way and the correct way, you can understand, your mind calculate the opposite of it and make an excuse, make an escapism through that. And then, since you have heard about this, since you have given serious thought about this, you can see how much our mind is finding escapism or consider things as permanent instead of impermanent notion. So you are quite worried about movable and non-movable assets in your life, and therefore you have no time for meditation. You have to think about the earnings and the possessions and your assets, therefore, because you think they are permanent and they are going to give your benefit, your well-being, or you think the self-notion, and therefore you always think about the property and your family and your responsibility towards the family, towards the properties, because each and every aspect you look through this self-notion. So therefore you never get any escape, any release as far as you are holding to this self-notion. And instead of attractiveness, if you are going to see the external thing and the internal thing as very attractive, very aesthetic, very auspicious, permanent, and then also you become very busy and always within the 24 hours, no chance for you to be aware of the breath. And whenever you see the living life is no any danger, instead it is something to be entertained, the party going kind of mood, you have no chance to think about in-breath and out-breath, or mindfulness on the in-breath and out-breath. So therefore, you hesitate to see the danger of it. Instead you see the benefit of socializing and daydreaming and fantasizing. So that is the opposite of adhinava sanya. And instead of pahana sanya, that means about the getting rid of, you accumulate whole your life. So therefore, more and more you accumulate, more and more you committed to maintain them, security, and therefore, in return, your time you will be taxed. And pahana sanya, abandoning, instead of abandoning, you do the opposite. Instead of the dispassion, you become passionate about the fame, gain, and monetary profits and kind of thing. And therefore, no chance you to come back at home situation, come back to here now I am, or come back to in-breath and out-breath, or come back to mindfulness. So therefore, as far as you have not understood this viraga sanya, raga or desire or sensuous desire is obsessional, and nirodha sanya, instead of the cessation, always you think about the arising part of the phenomena, and you consider the arising part as auspicious, beautiful. It is due to your past good deeds only it is happening. So you never think about this observing the cessation part, and therefore you make busy boy out of all the activities to see new entrepreneurships, new creation, new ideas, creativity going on and on without giving any peace of mind, without coming back to in-breath and out-breath, and sabba loke anabhirata sanya, and you take delight in the worldly affairs, and your worldly friends, worldly knowledge keep on stimulate you to be busy with these worldly affairs. And as I mentioned, the Buddha mentioned, when and where someone is concerned about the lokavaddaka, that means development in the worldly sense, that is nothing but susana vaddaka, is at last growing the symmetries, number of symmetries on the earth. For that only you try your best. And sabba sankharesu anicca sanya, you always think about the volitional activities and consider volition, my will, my determination, my mental stand, and throughout you consider they are really going to give a lasting results, and therefore keep on decorating, keep on fabricating and fantasizing. That is how you make yourself a busy person throughout the life, throughout the years, throughout the months, weeks and days and hours. Hardly find any time for you to come back home. So that is why before introducing this Anapanasati, in this particular discourse, the Buddha introduced the 9 kind of perceptions. Be aware of it, not to go to the radically other side, just to be aware of these notions. And when and where you are about to appreciate this kind of notion, your mentality will be more and more here, now I am. If it is not so, you may be thinking the society at large, you may be thinking about the other places, you may be busy with the past and the future, never they bring here and now. So that is how, when and where someone already came for Anapanasati Bhavana or inside mindfulness on the in-breath and out-breath, one has to go through all these barriers. So we people sitting under this roof already won or fought this fight, and we have come to a certain understanding, acceptance. Anapanasati is a must. We have to bring the attention here and now, be mindful, and therefore we knowingly or unknowingly got the benefit of this proper sanya. But even then, each of us has a complete, profound task in front of us, and when and where this kind of difficulties or hindrances coming, again you have to look into these 9 aspects or 9 perceptions for the furtherance or the development of Anapanasati. So I am not going to elaborate further how these 7 notions or 7 perceptions bring one to Anapanasati. Instead, I thought, how can we make use these 9 kind of perception when and where we are developing Anapanasati or developing mindfulness in a productive way, in a constructive way, and that will give practical hints when and where someone is practicing Anapanasati. But this is not confined to sitting meditation. That is why I am telling you like that is usually in the Anapanasati Bhavana, the mindfulness in breath and out breath, recommended as a sitting meditation. But these 9 kind of perceptions are not limited to sitting meditation. You have a wider usage, but in the sitting meditation, together with Anapanasati, you can understand, you can see the relationship, correlation among them. So with that idea, we will try to understand the guidance of the Buddha. He says, Katama Chananda Anapanasati. Or whenever Ananda and Ananda, what is this in mindfulness on in-breath and out-breath? And it's the same thing, having gone to a forest, or sit under a tree, or gone to a empty hut or solitude place, Nishidati Pallankang Abhujitva. He is sitting cross-legged, and so for Anapanasati, always this relationship is there. Whenever the Buddha prescribed Anapanasati, it is almost in a sitting posture, Ujunkayang Panidhaya, and cross-legged, Pallanka in Pali is known as cross-legged, and you have to sit in a way but we find in the statue of the Buddha, and Ujunkayam Panidhaya, you have to keep the body erect. So due to some misunderstanding on these kinds, many think those who can't sit cross-legged can't do mindfulness on the in-breath and out-breath. Because this is the ideal situation. So many think, just like these 9 perceptions, first and foremost they have to do yoga, first and foremost they have to prepare the posture, then only you have to go to the Anapanasati. That is a kind of a respectful fear towards the Anapanasati. But lucky enough nowadays, many people, or more and more people, take this mindfulness as a meditation, and they, all of them are not sitting in a cross-legged way, but anyway, that means they will be taking a chair, or they will be taking a cushion, or whatever may be, and may not be sitting exactly in the lotus posture, or half lotus posture, or quarter lotus posture, but some or the other, they make their body stable. And Parimukkham Satyam, the Ujjunkayam Panidaya, keep the upper part of the body erect, because you are now going to pay attention to the air column or air movement. So therefore your respiratory tract must be not hindered, not bent. It must be intact. That is why the upper part of the body must be erect. And then Parimukham Satyam Upattapetva. After fixing this internal and external climate or atmosphere, you pay attention or keep the mindfulness as the forerunner, or keep the mindfulness forefront, and with that all alignment only, sattva asasati, sattva passasati. We try to observe the in-breath mindfully and the out-breath mindfully. So this is the direct translation of the phrase that recited in Pali, but compared with the defilements, getting into a forest, sitting under a tree, or going to a solitude place means that particular person know when and where you live in the household life, it is very difficult to bring the peace of mind and to get the at least physical freedom. That is why going into another place, that indicates the macroclimate you have to adjust into. And then when you go on into the forest, you have 4 cardinal postures. The Buddha recommend this standing posture, sitting posture, because standing posture and the lying down posture and the walking, they need, especially walking and standing, need some energy to maintain the posture. Therefore, for a beginner, can't focus the attention to such a subtle object, and in the lying down posture easily fall into sleep, and therefore it is also not recommended. But the sitting posture is fairly good to focus the attention to such a subtle object. So therefore sitting is the internal climate or internal atmosphere you prepare, and then make the body erect and bring the mindfulness as the forefront thing, or Parimukham Satyam Upattapetva. Some books translate keeping the mindfulness in front of you. So taking that, some says that means under your very nose, or it says above, upper, on top of your upper lip. That is the forefront area. So therefore mindfulness must fixed in front, but it is too literal. When you are walking, this is not the place you are fixing the mindfulness, but still it is a valid mindfulness. So therefore you have to understand mindfulness as the forerunner, keeping the most important thing. The Venerable Nyanaponika, the German monk who wrote this Power of Mindfulness, he make it very clear, and it is very striking and very appealing. He says traditional religious people are often take the faith as their forerunner in their their spiritual life, religious life. So therefore they think the faith is the most important. People with the entrepreneurship, people with the creativity, productivity, they take energy as the most important thing, and they try to keep always the diligent effort, and they never understand their success is mainly depend on mindfulness. They think whatever the success they get, religious people, they think I am successful in my life because I am faithful. The entrepreneurship, the industrious people, they think I am successful in my life because I am energetic. But he says, Venerable Nyanaponika, whatever the success of a person, whether Buddhist or non-Buddhist, mindfulness is the person, mindfulness is the factor working towards one success, but mindfulness never get the due respect. That is why these people have the wrong notion I am successful because of my faith. I am successful because of my energy. And bypassing mindfulness, many religious people, they are chasing and craving toward the concentration. And total whole world is chasing behind the wisdom. These are the 5 faculties: faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and the wisdom. All of them try to find or exaggerate the faith and the energy, concentration and the wisdom. Hardly any person understand mindfulness is the forerunner, mindfulness must be the forerunner. When and where you fix the mindfulness as the forerunner, your whole life is well organized. This is the secret in the spiritual life. That is the thing we lost in Sri Lankan Buddhism for the last 1,000 to 1,500 years. Before that we had the golden era and people were very religious, whole country was religious, and later due to different disasters and invasions, it underwent a lot of difficulties happened. The main thing would have, they disrespect mindfulness. And you can see now about 30-40 years, people try to understand the value of mindfulness. Any person, you can do personal research or collective research, any person taken the mindfulness as the forerunner, they are steadfast developing. It is a very obvious thing. That is the point, parimukhaṃ satīṃ upaṭṭapetva. The faith is necessary, energy is necessary, concentration is necessary, wisdom is necessary. But when the faith becomes too much, wisdom becomes suppressed. When the energy becomes too much, concentration will be suppressed. When the concentration too much, energy will be suppressed. When the wisdom becomes too much, faith will be suppressed. They are antagonistic and cannibalic. Mindfulness never makes such a fight. They always keep the energy and the concentration balance, and that is the task of mindfulness. And the wisdom and the faith, they are contradictory each other. Mindfulness is the one making the balance. So therefore, moment you introduce the mindfulness, it is like a grammar to your language. It is like a backbone for you, for a human. This is the backbone of the spiritual life. So therefore, one has to understand the term meaning parimukhaṃ satīṃ upaṭṭapetva, keeping the mindfulness as your forerunner, as the beacon light. Then at the beginning, not necessarily that your faith and the wisdom is balanced, but that is the task of mindfulness. It is not necessarily that your energy and the concentration is in balance, but the mindfulness is the one, diagnose it and correct it. So therefore, understanding the mindfulness and giving the helm to the mindfulness is the main crucial change in a spiritual life, according to my personal belief. So that is why always we keep in a retreat, we recognize it as satipatthana, or establishment of mindfulness. When and where it happens, everyone is a beginner, and now we try our best to define the mindfulness according to my background. The Buddha has given some sort of a hint, but it is a lifelong research to give the meaning, definition, appealing nature of towards your life. It is ever changing. So therefore, the parimukhaṃ satīṃ upaṭṭapetva is you have to interpret. You have to interpret in a productive way, so that your life will be ever prepared for radical things, giving the mindfulness as the forerunner. And once that done, that means internal and external climate, macro and microclimate fixed, then only you can focus the attention to the breath. But many people, without giving any heed to the mindfulness, they try in breath and out breath. What they do is they start force breathing. They wanted to make the breath more prominent. Therefore, they keep on practicing forced breathing, ultimately end up with a headache or muscle cramps behind your neck, and ultimately this is no, the breathing meditation is not good for me because it makes headaches, it makes some blocks. That is nothing other than they don't know the value of keeping the mindfulness as a forerunner. And first and foremost, you have to make sure I am mindful here and now, and then only then you let whatever the object to arise, maybe rising and falling, or maybe in-breath and out-breath, maybe any other thing, then your mindfulness will take whatever may be prominent thing, whatever may be conspicuous thing. And after long experimenting only, you have to understand what is the trustworthy primary object that I must select. It's a utterly a practical, pragmatic thing. But many traditional people, often, they never understand it. They have a respectful attitude to the Anapanasati, but they find it's very difficult to touch it. It is so subtle because of this forced breathing and misunderstanding towards the mindfulness. So therefore, even if you have certain amount of correct perspective, give a second thought. Think again and again. Soon you go into the sitting posture. It is if you are rushing to see the beginning of the in-breath, the middle of the in-breath and the end of the in-breath, that right from the beginning you are messing up the situation. Just you have to go and establish the mindfulness. Am I here now? When that is not been assured, it is like you are going to drive the car when the green light is not there. Maybe amber light or maybe the red light. So if you are vehemently, boldly running, you are sending others also in trouble, and you also going to get in trouble. And no coverage from the insurance or any legal side, because you have not seen, you have no patience enough to wait till the green light happens. So therefore, more and more you understand, more and more you define according to your familiar definition, the mindfulness. Soon you sit, you never have any preconceived idea. Just you sit and see how much my body, how much the climate, macroclimate is conducive and good for the mindfulness. And if it is not conducive, I mean if your body is not in a balance, if your body is with the tense kind of thing, first and foremost you have to use the common sense. That is called the body knowledge, to make the situation relaxed, make the situation balanced. And that equilibrium is a must. That usually defined as the beginner's mind. Enormous value. Enormous value. Most of the question and answer session, most of the questions, because they are not down to earth, they don't know the gradual process, they don't know how to get a start, therefore they start halfway and then ultimately mess up the situation. They can't interpret what is happening because of lack of this gradual training. So therefore establishing the mindfulness soon you sit is so important. Later we may come into the subject again and again, and to keep in your mind briefly, for example, after you sitting, maybe you confronted with the in-breath and out-breath, or rising and falling, and once you align with that particular primary object, and if you are skillful, what happens is that very particular assigned object becomes subtle, become soft, ultimately become unperceivably subtle, and again what you come back is the same very mindfulness that you started right from the beginning. Here now I am. So therefore whether you assign the primary object or not, the beginning is here now I am, middle is the here now I am, end is the here now I am. So therefore, literally you can say, here now I am is the Nibbana. That is what you are going to reach. So therefore, if you sit, if you can understand, yes, I am much familiar with my sitting posture, it is relaxed, it is balanced, and now I am here, now I am. Try to understand that is the most important step, and after long meditation, you will more and more familiarize it, understand this is what the beginning point, and this is the middle, this is the end. When and where you develop this familiarity with here now I am, now of course we are talking with sitting meditation, and even in the walking meditation, even when you are standing, even when you are lying down, or posture junctions, when and where you comes to know here now I am, that is what we call Nibbana. At the beginning we try to understand under the circumstances, all the variables are fixed and we are only the sitting posture, and we try to introduce mindfulness. But when and where you change your posture, minor posture changes in your sitting posture, or intentional changes in your walking posture, or other the day-to-day activities, if you can be aware, if you have the connection to the here now I am, throughout, moment you comes to know, this here now I am never change, even you change the posture, even you change the place, even you, in the whatever the day it is happening, that is the way you develop the here now I am, continuous or steadfast, and make your immediate friend, or like your walking stick. Wherever you go, you have the stick. So now in the Anapanasati, we reduce it to sitting posture. We reduce it to the mindfulness of the in-breath and out-breath. That is the way introduced to the beginner. So when and where you come and sit and comprehend your sitting posture, and then introduce the in-breath and out-breath, that is a more assured way. As far as you are in the in-breath and out-breath, here now I am is already assured. So therefore, being in mindfulness is the in-breath and out-breath, don't worry and think about whether I am now here, present, or I am face-to-face with the reality. Nothing to worry, because in-breath and out-breath is within here now I am. So it is, I will put it this way. At the beginning, before you learn, before you heard about mindfulness, you are living in household life, and your mind is taken all the worries of the whole world, whole universe, worrying. And then only you take, not everyone, a little fraction of people wish to take this solitude, and they go into the forest, sit under a tree or a solitude place, and then if at all any worries, you are worrying only on the forest, only the tree that you are sitting under, only the solitude place it is appealing, and therefore by taking this forest atmosphere, under the tree atmosphere or solitude atmosphere, you get rid of all the worries with respect to the universe, all the worries with respect to the village, town, house, familiarity, family and kind of thing. Now you have a kind of limited amount of worries related to the forest, related to the dwelling place, related under the tree. And when you are there, you sit down and focus the attention to your body. Now worries are there that is limited to your body. You are no more worrying about the world, no more worrying about the forest, tree under which you are sitting, or the solitude place. And once you bring the attention to the here now I am, that you are sitting posture, and then when the breath happens, now your attention is just at the rubbing place of the nostril, left nostril, right nostril, or top of your upper lip, and now your focus is worrying about the breath. But due to that very limited worries, you have got rid of already the worries pertaining to the whole world, worries pertaining to the forest, worries pertaining to your body, but it has now come to the one single point, that is in-breath and out-breath. This is what we call one-pointedness. This is how the focusing happens. Your whole mindfulness, your whole faith, your whole energy, your whole mindfulness, your whole concentration is singly one-pointed, and this is the physical you can understand. And when and where in-breath happen, you try to keep it there. When and where out-breath happen, you try to keep it there. It's assured mind is within the body. Nothing to worry about that. The breath is still singly reducing to one particular point, and we keeping that mindfulness is just like tightrope walking. Just like walking in a footbridge. Only at a time you can have a space for one foot. You take and the other foot and remove this one in such a balance. That is the way the in-breath and out-breath happening. So therefore, when you come up to the sato asasati, sato pasasati, mindfully he in-breath, mindfully out-breath, it's such a alignment it is happening. So you have already earned the one-pointedness. It's a matter of protection. Now it's a matter of protection. So once this is been introduced, the main task of the Buddha, main task of the teacher is finished. Now you have to share with the practitioner, together with the knowledge of the Buddha, how to protect it, how to keep the continuity of it. That is what you call Anapanasati Bhavana. And for that we have so much of rules, so much of hints, so much of ways and means. Each and every method or formula or rule is pertaining to a particular kind of a distraction, particular kind of a disturbance. So you have to very sharply understand what kind of distraction I am going to have in order, in the process of endeavorance of maintaining this already earned mindfulness. So therefore, if you can be sure that I can earn this mindfulness, whatever the time, I can earn this mindfulness even after struggling 15 minutes or 30 minutes, never mind, your potential to enlighten in this very life is already assured. It's a potential. Now you have the potential. Now it is being demanding how to maintain it. More and more you maintain this very alignment, very mindfulness, very one-pointedness, you are verifying and protecting the same, and more you apply the mindfulness on this alignment, whether you like it or not, all the likings and dislikings will be reshuffled, all the personality traits will be reshuffled, each and every hobby, each and every addiction will be reconsidered, and now you are in a hell of a wrestling. Am I to go with the same habits, same hobbies, same personality, same likings and disliking, or taking this radical way to keep the mind choiceless way and open way? So then onward, it is your baby. This you have to assimilate ways and means how to keep this already earned mindfulness, already earned balance more and more. Still, of course, you may consult Buddha, you may consult Dhamma, you may consult Sangha. When and where these messing up happens, when and where mind is going to take other directions, other interests, that everything has been recorded, everything has been recognized, each and everything as a remedy. So that is what we call literature, in the canon, in the commentary. So therefore, only thing is, when and where you have any misdirection, any disorientation, if you can make sure I can re-establish my mindfulness, despite the last moment that is desperate, never mind, nothing to regret, but re-establish the mindfulness. And if that is assured, you are ever progressing. Ever progressing. So that is what very difficult to convince everyone think while progressing there may be white colors appearing, yellow colors appearing, I can walk in the sky or I can walk in the water and I can have the clairvoyance, all the kind of nonsense you bought from home. And they are the one you are brooding upon. Therefore, each and everything is pulling you off the track and your simple alignment on the mindfulness is being completely complicated. So, these complications because of wrong perception. Each and every complication is attributable to one or the other perception. So, when and where such a thing happen, if you are a kind of a negative person, self-critical person, you may find, what unlucky person, I have no chance to enlighten in this very life, I can't keep the mindfulness like. You always give soul or governability to this all the distraction. You don't know how to look at them in the notion of non-self. You do not know how to look at these impediments from the notion of impermanence. So when and where your mind become inferior, when and your mind become defeated, you give so much of value for these distractions. Thinking it is permanent. Thinking it is governable. It is the omnipotent, omnipresent. I am just the being, I can't do it like that. Each and every time you can understand this wrong notion, the wrong perceptions are interpreted in a practical way. So each and every time you have to take that particular individual incident and analyze with the open-mindedness, and there you can understand how these perceptions, how these notions are undermining in an each and every time. Moment you put them into the correct path, so much of determination power, so much of gladness, so much of energy you develop, and your own this positive thinking and learning the ways and means, ultimately you may find, irrespective of your age, irrespective of your sex, irrespective of your the advancement of the meditation, each and every time it is an adventurous. It is so adventurous, ultimately when and where the mistake is going to win, your inferiority, discouragement and everything happen. When and where the mindfulness is going to re-establish it, so much of recharging of your battery and learning ways and means, and that is the way it becomes very adventurous, or as I often say, it's like a scouting or Girl Guides. All the impediments you have to see under the light of mindfulness. So when and where the already earned mindfulness is continuing or securing, you may see more and more the development of mindfulness, more and more you learn intrinsic characteristics of the very primary object. This is the kind of a theoretical connection. More and more with the primary object, more and more your mindfulness becomes sharper. More and more your mindfulness becomes pragmatic. It appears very practical. And therefore, lot of aphorisms and lot of theories, formulas prepared how to keep the primary object immediate with, and not the missing way, and just to face with the primary object. And therefore the Buddha, it says, after you keep the in-breath and out-breath intact, in-breath and the mindfulness intact, he says, Digang vasa santo, digang asa samiti pajanati. Whenever you are going to give a long in-breath, you verily know, now it's a long in-breath. When it is a long out-breath, you know this is the long out-breath. So that means if someone says, whenever the long in-breath, out-breath happen, I can't perceive it, I can't experience it, that means absent-mindedness, fantasizing, daydreaming, and wandering mind can happen. So therefore, at least when and where you can't experience the short or longness of the in-breath and out-breath, you can see what is the distraction. That means still the mindfulness is intact. Mindfulness has some job to do. So therefore, more and more you practice, you may see, and you may see the primary object as the theme. For example, if you are making a garland, different flowers you put into the same thread, and ultimately it appears like a garland. So the thread here is the mindfulness on the in-breath and out-breath, different difficulties, different things, you have to go through it. Ultimately, when you see the garland, you can't see the thread. You only see flowers. That is how it appears very beautiful. But all the gluing thing, connecting thing is the mindfulness, and mindfulness the in-breath and out-breath. So more and more you develop respect, more and more you develop immediacy, the in-breath and out-breath. Not that in-breath and out-breath is more attractive. Not that in-breath and out-breath is going to give so much of any results, but by just mere keeping the attention with the in-breath and out-breath, your total worries regarding the whole world is well done with. Total worries regarding your forest dwelling is done with. Your whole worries about your maintaining of the body is done. Only you know the friction in the in-breath and the out-breath. You have to give an additional value for that in order to get rid of all the worries. And if you do not know that, if you think that something mystic in in-breath or something mystic in the mindfulness, that you unwantedly make it mystical. But the meditation is one-to-one relationship. If you keep one breath mindful, you get one breath full of results and the benefits. If you can keep 2 breaths, the result will be double. If you can keep 3 breaths, 4 breaths, that is all what you call vipassana. If you do 1 breath and expect the results of 2 breaths, that is called opportunist. That is called opportunist. Each and every meditator is an opportunist. In Sri Lanka, if you wish to get a job, not that you need to have a qualification, but you have to get the letter from your MP, member of the parliament, then you can get any job. So they don't learn, but instead go behind the MP and they get the job. That is called opportunist. So therefore you can understand who is cheating, who is getting cheated. This is one-to-one relationship. Keep 1 breath full of tensionlessness. 2 breaths full of tensionlessness. Otherwise it's a full of tension. So therefore you have to be very rational, have to be very pragmatic, keep the breath, and while you are keeping the breath, in order to keep the consistency, or in order to gather the momentum, the basic thing or simple thing, you have to study the very breath happening under your very nose, whether it's a long one or short one, whether in-breath or out-breath. So therefore at the beginning, you can say, to keep the mind here and now, you compare in-breath versus out-breath. And in order to highlight it, in order to emphasize, whenever Jnanarama used to say, whenever you are in the in-breath, you must know the touch of it, experience of it, what you feel it. And not only that, you must have a kind of understanding, this is not out-breath. That is the sharpness. When and where the mind goes to the out-breath, you not only know you are on the out-breath, and you can see the characteristics, shapes and the manners, and meanwhile you know it is not in-breath. So when that sharpness happens, the comparison is the only thing we know in our knowledge in order to discriminate one thing. So that critical knowledge, that delimitation, we employ it, and the moment you comes to know this is in-breath and this is out-breath, I would like to say, your mind start vipassana. That is the point where the inside meditation is going to happen. Because some people can understand, I am not in a sound, not in a thought, not in a pain, but I am in the breath. But if you keep on questioning, still that particular person may say, I can't discriminate in breath and out breath. I can't see where it is touching, but I am sure I am with the breath. That means that particular person also a meditator. He also mindful, but he see only one facet of the breath. Instead of the vipassana yogi, he see things as they are. He see, now I am not in a sound, not in a pain, not in a thought, but I am in the breath. But I know where it is touching. On top of that, knowing that I am on the breath, I am in the present moment, he knows where the focal point is, whether in the inner wall of the left nostril, or inner wall of the right nostril, or end of the nostril, or top of your lip, upper lip, whatever may be, is sharply reducing to the particular point that indicates his mind is inquiry. And third aspect is, with the in-breath and out-breath happen, he verily can understand in-breath has its own intrinsic characteristic, personal characteristic. And out-breath is different. Out-breath has its own individual characteristic, intrinsic characteristic. So he sees the third aspect, while be mindful on the breath, while knowing the touching point, on top of that he can say, this is the in-breath experience and this is the out-breath experience. But don't think at a given thought moment you can see all the three. Never. At a time you may see, I am in the in-breath and out-breath. Next thought moment you may see, it is touching in that particular point. And the next thought moment you may see, in-breath is so and so and out-breath is so and so. So likewise, ultimately you put everything into the inferential knowledge, deductive knowledge. When you are writing the report, you see, in the in-breath, I feel it in my left nostril, for example, and I feel cooler and so longer. When the out-breath happens, maybe in the same place or maybe the other nostril, and I feel fairly comparatively warmer and shorter or longer. So that means that particular person have the potential to see all the three facets. So this is a kind of a vague understanding, and it is not a necessity for the yogis to know. Why I am mentioning is, but it is a must for the teacher to know. But present-day teachers, if you see, they don't know this kind of a clarity. Therefore, ultimately, they find very difficult to read what the yogi is talking, what the interview report is. So, therefore, ultimately, whenever the person with the insight tendencies, if you are going to give the instructions more toward the samatha side, there may be some repercussions. And when the person is having samatha tendencies and going to give the vipassana instructions, it is like putting petrol into the diesel engine, and then the decarbonization you have to do. When the first time when I meditate, I started to see some kind of a flickering light and kind of a magnetizing pull into the in-breath and out-breath. I can't exactly remember whether it is rising, falling or in-breath and out-breath. So it is something new. I went to my teacher. He told no personal interviews. He refused. But last day he gave a chance. I went there and told, then he told, you are in the wrong side. Stop it. Note it. Come back to the primary object. And as if I have done a criminal mistake, so I am sentenced to death. So I try my best not to have any light. Light appear like phobia for me now. Because he see it is something wrong. So I try my best not to see but to keep with the in-breath and out-breath. 10 years later, again I came to Nissarana and went to Vanaya. I told Bhante, when I am practicing this kind of flickering light, he said, it is good. You have to promote it. The immediate my response was just blackguarding my early teacher. Bhante, I lost 10 years. Why? Because this came earlier, he refused, he told this is nothing to promote. But I was so agitated when Jnanarama mentioned, never mind. As far as the sansara is concerned, 10 years is a simple thing. So you can start again. Because the teacher, he knows only one track. This is not he heard about, and whenever I am reporting, he thought this is something wrong. So that is why I am giving it, but it is not to complicate your simple mind. That is why I am telling it is not a must. A yogi should know. But if the teacher do not know, that is the way misunderstanding can happen. So therefore, whatever the happening, whenever you are observing the mindfulness, you have to report non-judgmental. You must not say, this is happening, this is samatha, this is happening, this is vipassana, I wish to go samatha, I wish to go vipassana. You have no choice. It is destiny. Whether you like it or not. Only thing you can do is apply your mind to the breath and report as it is. And some people, morning hours may be in vipassana way and the evening hours may be in the samatha way, or concentration way and the insight way. And whenever your walking meditation is good and when your mind is very dynamic, may be suitable for insight meditation. But some other time it may be samatha. So therefore, Anapanasati Bhavana is the only one meditation object which can cater for both samatha and vipassana. So that is why whenever the Buddha describing something as a panacea for each and everyone, Anapanasati is the subject he is talking about. But if he is handling one by one, different objects he can prescribe. So just read the beginning of the Anapanasati Sutta. He get a congregation with all kind of meditations. Each and everyone is progressing, knowing the mind. After reading the mind, he prescribed Anapanasati. Because it is a universal kind of an object, meditation object, and promoting all the kind of meditation. So therefore, if someone can come and experience the Anapanasati, he must not worry about the other sundry items like repulsivity of the body, recollection of the death and the virtues of the Buddha, or loving kindness, because Anapana never works if these things are lacking. Anapana is something, it is fulfilling, cascading thing. So therefore, when and where your mind is be with in-breath and out-breath, consider, don't worry, don't entertain doubts, don't look backward, and take this as a trustworthy, noble friend, and continue with the breath. And then only, if you are not wavering, if you are not entertaining doubt, then only you can see chronologically, when you observe in the breath, in-breath, out-breath, in-breath, out-breath, not only the comparison between the in-breath and out-breath, but in-breath to in-breath changes are starting to happen. Out-breath to out-breath changes are going to happen. That is what the chronological order. That is why the Buddha says, once you comes to know long in-breath and long out-breath, then he says short in-breath and short out-breath. Now it's a four-dimensional, not only the in-breath and out-breath, but in-breath to in-breath, out-breath to out-breath. So you are keeping the bookkeeping, the tracks, because your mind become more subtle, more refined. So now you can see in-breath to in-breath, the calming down happens. Out-breath to out-breath, calming down happens. When and where this in-breath and out-breath, when and where in-breath to in-breath changes are going to happen, out-breath to out-breath changes are going to happen, the comparison, contrast between the in-breath and out-breath wonderfully reduces. This is a universal law. This is a kind of a mental law. When the in-breath to in-breath changes are obvious, when the out-breath to out-breath changes are obvious, the contrast between the in-breath and out-breath, the individual characteristics slowly disappearing. So you can see the chronologically in-breath is becoming subtler, out-breath is becoming subtler, but now you can't see whether it is in-breath or out-breath. Both of them are milder, common characteristics are increasing, this change is very, very important. It's a very big change. This is all what you call dependent origination. If you can see this connection, this is the starting point of the touch towards the dependent origination, how one thing gives rise to other, and 2-3 dimensions. Not only the one, in-breath to out-breath changes, in-breath to in-breath changes, out-breath to out-breath changes, and it is not yours. When and where you keep the object face to face, this is what happens. This is the way mindfulness is revealing, and only you are an observer. So, when and where the changes to be observed, you must be fully open-minded. You must be fully with the choiceless awareness. And when that happens, the noting pattern, as far as the in-breath and out-breath changes are there, noting is crucially important. It is the only tool you have. But when the in-breath is about to change, out-breath is about to change to the medium and subtle, and the differences are becoming less and less, noting itself will be a burden. Noting itself will be a burden. At that time you have to just put the machine into autopiloting, let the mindfulness to run. If it is necessary, you can still use the noting as a technique, but now you can see without noting, let it happen, but very sharply you are to see how the in-breath to in-breath changes, out-breath to out-breath changes, and when this is happening, you see the calm and collectedly mind again and again falling onto the in-breath to out-breath, in-breath, out-breath, in-breath, out-breath, like object appear face to face with. Earlier you had so much of difficult to keep the object in view with. Now if you are sharp enough, if you are not disturbing it, if you are not putting turmoils, if you are not entertaining doubts, if you are not doing force breathing, when it's calming down, so these things are happening. And that time you can understand the breath as a one phenomena, one object, the beginning, the middle and the end. Now it is so close, it is so immediate, so tame, so docile. This is the time you can see detail, not at the beginning. At the beginning you have to just establish a mindfulness, and then develop the familiarity with the object. When the mind and the object become face to face, this is the time. It is like fix a tripod and the camera. Now we are going to get a resolute kind of photos, not like when it is jumping here and there. So likewise you can fix it and get the precise photos or resolute photos. How is the beginning of the in-breath, middle of the in-breath, end of the in-breath, and so your detailed attention, or the extracting the sap of the object, the juice of the object, the taste of the object, only that you are developing the familiarity. If you do it before, you are going to eat sour mango. If you are not doing at that time, you miss the bus. So therefore, when and where object become docile and face to face it, you must try to extract as much as information. But next time when you start it, don't expect that to happen right from the beginning. Again, you have to develop the beginner's mind, and you know how to bring that alignment next time also, may or may not be. This is not a mistake of mindfulness. This indicates the changing nature. So you must be open-minded. Again you do. When and where mind come up to that caliber, then you try to extract more information, and you find yesterday's experience is little bit a kick for today, and today furtherance, and day after another furtherance, and that is how you be more and more familiar with the primary object. Still we are talking about the materiality, material side of meditation, and more and more information comes, and mindfulness naturally changing into the immaterial side, and for that the refinement or familiarity must come up to a certain degrees. Otherwise, even if you wish, the change from material to the immaterial never happen. Whether you like it or not, when and where the mindfulness becomes steadfast, naturally it happens. So that is all what I thought sharing today with you all. And tomorrow we will take time how these changes takes place from the materiality to mentality, and still without entertaining misconception and getting rid of misconception, how to proceed further into the object of mindfulness. So I would like to sum up the today's talk. Thank you very much for listening.